Nope, we're going live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the VlogCast. VlogCast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. The VlogCast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect when some people I knew on Facebook said, "We're posting stuff because we find it fun and entertaining. It doesn't have to be making sense or be real or stuff, so stop poo-pooing on us and just let us have our fun." And that's the way that we want to use Facebook. The way that you're doing it is wrong because, okay. Yeah, that works really good on me. This podcast also started to try to follow up on the idea of the old adage, sometimes the journey is more impressive than the destination. I'm known as Tribble all over the place. You can find me all over the place under that name, either as one word or two. It's actually rather interesting to go Google searching me, I found out. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, to a Roman Catholic family. Raised on Long Island, I now live outside of Buffalo, New York, and I am an unabashed atheist. Joining us tonight is Unrenowned Tech.
Greetings. I was raised in New York, but returned to my state of birth, Maryland. I live in the southern area of it right now, and it's kind of interesting. I'm actually finding more atheists down here than I thought was possible for such an area of the way people act down here versus how many atheists I've met. It doesn't quite seem to balance out. I think somewhere down the line in this area down here, people are pretending to believe, and I'm going to filter them out, and then we're going to scream in one voice, "We will not go quietly into the night." Oh, wait, I'm channeling Independence Day again. Sorry, guys.
Okay, then. And Joseph?
Good evening, folks. My name's Joe. Born in Chicago, Illinois, to a Roman Catholic family. Served 8 years in the military. Currently living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as a graphic designer and an atheist.
And as you may have noticed, we don't have anybody else chiming in from elsewhere at the moment. We're hoping to see from possibly Dallin, which I'm actually not expecting at this point, because last I heard he was traveling and did not have a really good net connection. Witchy Bunny is
incognito?
Yeah, somewhere, don't know quite where. It's entirely possible that things have not been set up quite right for her yet. She has recently moved from one state, 2 states over. 3 states?
About 4 hours ago, she was talking about somebody opening up a Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, lovely. All right, so
she may be watching an animatronic show right now.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll tell you guys about that in a minute. So, very likely we will not have either of them on this evening. That is okay. However, of course, you know, if you guys are watching, you know, take care of yourselves. However, you may have noticed that we do have someone else over in Studio O over here. Mystery guest, will you sign in, please?
Hi, I'm Tiny Tribble.
That's it? Nothing more?
I don't know what else to say, so yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you all for joining us. Tonight it is episode prime number 11. Figure it out from there. It is August 31st, 2014, and we're going to be talking, well, we're going to be talking with my daughter, codenamed Tiny Tribble, and we're going to kind of ask a couple of questions, see how long she lasts, and see what we can learn about something that a lot of people don't end up doing, which is talking with the people who are actually growing up in the situation where they are the odd people out, where they don't have a religious upbringing, and see, you know, what it takes of us and where the ideas kind of take us. Now, believe it or not, I've been trying to come up with an idea as far as to what to call the opening segment when I usually talk about whatever has been going on around me. And I am trying... Oh, that's why that didn't want to work. Trying to get to my stopwatch so I can actually time myself for 5 minutes specifically. So here's what comes up. So I guess technically we'll end up calling it the 5-minute rant. So So we'll go with that. So during this past week, there's not been a heck of a lot that's really set me off. There are a whole bunch of things that have been interesting to watch, most notably the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, which hats off to Patrick Stewart for being one of the classiest people I've ever seen, and for Samuel Conaway, Dr. Samuel Conaway, otherwise known as Uncle Kage, for also having an incredible amount of just an incredible presence. Well done, gentlemen. And I also want to make notice of something that's been really bothering me, and that is this new nail polish that has recently come out. I forget the particulars on it, but the idea of it is it's designed to have a reaction, change color, when in the presence of certain what's been known as date rape drugs. Now, the idea is that if a woman is out on a date or whatever, if she wants to very quickly, very quietly check to see if anything's been put into her drink that shouldn't be, all she's got to do is just stir up with her finger, and if her fingernails changed color, well, not such a good idea to go ahead and drink that. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And I personally, and a lot of people, find this to be a really, really good idea, because it's quick, it's quiet, it does the job, and the whole point of it is safety. And unfortunately, there are a number of people who feel that this is just empowering men to go ahead and do whatever it is that they're going to do, nefarious purposes and such. And that it shouldn't even be a thing. Why should this even be a thing? Why should we allow women to be in the position of needing to protect themselves? Why don't we just tell men, hey, you know what? Raping people, that's not such a good idea. Don't do that, okay? Thanks very much, okay, bye. And I understand that. I understand that completely and wholeheartedly. However, let's take it from a different angle. What's the purpose of having a gun? It's for self-protection. Now, we talked about guns and gun ownership fairly recently. But from the personal standpoint, not the political standpoint, from the personal standpoint, the idea of having a weapon, no matter what that weapon is for personal protection. Yes, we could go ahead and say, why should anyone own a gun for personal protection? Shouldn't we instead just teach people it's not a good thing to go ahead and accost people, threaten their life, their harm, in order to get money from them? You're right, yes, we should teach people that. But the problem of it is, it doesn't take with everybody. So, sooner or later, we need to have our own personal protection from the few, the small percentage of people who don't follow what the rest of us all want to do, which is to have a good life, to be safe, to not have to worry about other people trying to do us harm. And I get that. Personally, if I never had to worry about anybody coming at me with the purpose of doing harm to me, for whatever reason, I would sleep much better, all the time. I live out in the freaking boonies out here in Western New York. There are deer that run around. There are wild turkey that come flying by every once in a while. There are rabbits, there are skunks, there are raccoons. There's a place down the hill from where I live that has llamas, for Christ's sakes. The chances of anybody coming out randomly to my house and trying to get into my house or get into my car is insignificant. It is virtually nil. But there is still that very, very slim possibility. And where we live, it would not be unusual for people to just leave their front door unlocked or their cars unlocked, because who the hell is going to come over here? The people that live right nearby? Well, we're all just trying to do the same thing, which is just, just live our lives and just be fun with each other, or even just leave each other alone. But I grew up in the city. I grew up in the shadow of New York City, 45 miles east on Long Island. And I still lock my doors. I still close up my windows. I still close and lock my car. And why? Because safety. Because even though I follow the rules, I can't trust that everybody else will. So the idea that somebody's come up with an idea, a simple way for somebody to protect themselves in a quiet way, good on you guys. You keep doing that. You keep coming up with safe ways for people to keep themselves safe with a minimum of effort and a lot of ingenuity. And if somebody says, why don't we just teach people not to make this necessary? Most of us do. Most people are good. It's the few that we have to be careful for. And that's exactly why we do it. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, and yes, there is, okay, you know what, 6 minutes.
1 minute.
Close enough. 1 minute over. You know what, I don't care.
I was trying to tell you.
That's all right.
That's why I was poking you.
Besides, considering this is the first time I've actually timed myself, that's not too bad.
Yep.
So, like I said, tonight we're gonna be talking with the little one, and we're going to see what kind of things we're gonna do over here, and find out about the questions. We got one person that's already chimed in on the Q&A, and of course, thank you very kindly. We appreciate that. From John. Well, you know what? We're gonna stick with the idea of not giving off last names. Just one name. John or Jan, I believe it might be. Who's asking? It's almost 1 a.m. Don't you have church tomorrow? Actually, Jan, it's more like 9 o'clock. It's 9:30 on the West Coast, so I'm not too worried about it. So, thank you for your concern, and we appreciate it. However, even if it were 1 o'clock in the morning, that's Monday or Sunday. No, yeah, it's 1 o'clock on Sunday, which means tomorrow would be Monday, and I don't know of anybody that goes to church on a Monday. So, still, thank you for asking. We appreciate it.
And
also,
does not the clock say 12? Because what?
It's 12:20 a.m. right now.
yeah, on the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we have?
If you're gonna say something, you're gonna have to speak up.
Tiny, yes, you're correct. Just speak up when you talk, that's all. Because you're farther back from the mic than, well, your daddy.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I got a big mouth. You know that.
I'm
But
trying
thank
to
you for
censor
this. We
myself
appreciate it.
right now.
That's all right. We appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna let me scooch myself a little bit over here so that you get a little bit closer. There we go. All right. So,
The pen I'm almost off screen.
do you want a leg to sit on?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so as you can tell, we did not set this up very well. We did not practice. There we go.
Wow, this is weird.
Yeah, it's even more so for me because I have to try to maneuver. There we go for the video. Yeah, it works out just well that way. All right, so let's see what kind of stuff we can ask you about. So at this point, you just turned 12, and going to be going into 7th grade, the middle of middle school. Hold on a second. Tech, your little squirt. How old is he? What's he going into?
He's 8, just started 3rd grade, and he spent the whole week telling the principal and the teachers about his experience on the movie set.
Wait a second. What movie set?
He was an extra in a zombie movie, and
cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and I got to be one too. They actually asked me if I wanted to be one. I said, not without my son. So unless you got room for an 8-year-old, no thank you. And they said, sure, we could always use another one, which kind of should have made me worried, but it didn't, because they're my friends. Anyway, he had a fantastic time. The director liked him. Well, both of the directors. It was a husband-wife team. The staff liked them. The makeup people loved it because anytime they get a chance to cover a kid in fake blood, They love it. There are some sick and twisted people, and I love, and they were fantastic. And what was really funny is that I was constantly getting compliments from adults saying, your son's much more well-behaved than some of the adults around here. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was not specifically asking for brown M&Ms in his trailer or anything like that?
He wasn't one of the primary characters. He only got used as background effects. But those background effects occurred around some of the primary characters, so when the movie does get fully released, since I know where to look for him, I'll be able to spot him very easily. Me, the most I got in terms of anything even remotely to identifying on screen is a profile shot of me for maybe a second and a half, sitting at a booth in the background.
So, Epic Zombie Beard is going to be epic on big screen.
Awesome.
I don't really get any screen time. It's more of.
Were you sleeping in the booth?
No. What I did do though is I did manage to. At one point, they needed people to put their arms through the railings to a deck. Okay, a wooden deck. We had to put our arms through, and we had to make like we were trying to reach and grab their legs. So you got these actors and actresses jumping around and hopping around and whatnot, and we're doing the take over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm getting fed up, so I'm just going to go with it. And so I managed one take. I managed to squeeze my head slightly through. I start gnashing my teeth and acting the way they actually brought in a guy to teach us how to be the zombies. The type of zombies they wanted for the movie.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, it was actually fantastic. He really loved how my son could bend his feet, go from like this to like this without hurting himself. It looked like he had 2 broken feet. It looked like he was walking on like that. It was creepy. He even creeped out the director. He said, "Dude, that's creepy. Do it again."
Yeah, it's kind of like how I can do.
Wow. She can choke herself.
Yeah, let's not have that though, all right?
Well, anyway, at one point I reached through and I grabbed the foot of one of the actors, and I did it when he wasn't. They never said that we couldn't touch him, but they never instructed us to do it. They just said make like you're grabbing for them, and I got his foot and he jumped up. He, like 3 feet in the air, and he kicked out with his foot. And man, he nailed my hand too. He, pow!
Ow.
And I was wearing this ring at the time. And when he hit the ring mostly. So he got my knuckles, which are already calloused from from all the construction work, and the ring. So it kind of deadened the blow a bit, but. At that point, they cut and they sent that one to print.
Nice.
So I don't know if it was the fact that I got him to jump that high.
That's actually pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
And it was
really
fun,
impressive.
Nobody was saying, "Oh, don't worry, there's nothing to be afraid of. God will protect you," or any of that. Nobody did anything like that whatsoever. Everybody got along. Everybody was, they were intermingling, they were talking and introducing each other. And there were other kids there too, only one other child my son's age, but most of the other ones were preteens or teenagers. And, at no point was there a prayer circle or was anybody going, "Oh, you're all going to hell," or anything. It was all a good time. It was all great fun.
So basically the point of it is, when all is said and done, you decided to go with the motivation of you're trying to grab the guy who has your paycheck. That's what you're going with.
No. You don't understand. We don't get paid. This was all volunteer work.
Details, just stop with the details.
Yeah, for once I'll agree with that.
But the thing was, I have pictures. He looked gory as heck. It was great. And he had such a great time.
Dude, you can say gory as hell. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
And
you just have to picture.
I've been trying to cut those words out of my life because they really don't have any meaning to me.
Oh, well, okay.
Instead of saying like, "Oh my God," I go, "Oh man," like as in, "Oh mankind." Okay. You know, this is something horribly tragic that will affect mankind, like a tsunami.
Yeah, we'll worry about the PCs later.
No. I'm not trying to be PC. I'm trying to remove stuff from my life that doesn't have meaning to me anymore, because to me it becomes a waste of space in my vocabulary or in my brain.
Gotcha.
When I can fill it with something more meaningful to myself. Like, we have kids. You know, our children are very important to us. The more I fill my life with my involvement with my son and his activities, his day-to-day routines, you know, the more meaningful I feel that our relationship becomes.
Fair enough.
Which would be great if his mother would figure that one out, because I was supposed to be able to reach him on the phone today, and she still didn't pick up the damn phone.
Well, one thing at a time. We'll see what we can do.
I know, baby steps, right?
Exactly. Speaking of baby steps, Joe, since I got you over here, and, you know, I still have to pay you, and check's still coming in the mail, you've had the opportunity of meeting this little one. Granted, I've had the chance of, you know, seeing her most of the time. So far from what you've had the opportunity of seeing, and having seen other children out at various different times, what's your opinion been of her so far?
I don't think he was paying attention again to the question.
No, I was. I'm just trying to find a way of saying this. No. Saying this in a way that is going to be proper. When I first met Tiny Tribble, she was, I believe, 7?
I'm trying to remember that.
7, 8, 9?
Something like that.
How old are you now?
I'm 12.
12. You turned 12 in 2014, which would put 2012. You would have been just 10.
Mm-hmm.
No.
He can math.
Okay.
No, there's something. That was the year before that. So it was
3 years ago.
It was 2012. So yes.
Wait.
How can I put this lightly? Tiny Tribble was the first child of her age that I had met out in a public place that did not make me want to immediately pop their head off. I don't have children of my own. I have my niece and my nephew. Well, 2 nephews now. But my niece is actually, I believe she just turned 8 or 9. It's hard for me to keep track of these things. But generally speaking, I hate other people's kids. Now, please understand, this is because usually these individuals who have these children have not done a very good job of raising them.
And also haven't been infusing them with A1.
Or Worcestershire sauce.
In retail hell, we call these hell spawn.
So, yes. However, the word, I suppose, that would best sum up my first encounter with Tiny Tribble, I suppose if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be intimidation.
Barb?
Allow me to paint you a picture. You see, I am a smoker. If you have seen the previous episodes, you have seen me smoke quite often.
It's okay.
Not normal, because for a while before I started working on this show, I had actually started to quit. But things have been a little bit on the, shall we say, tense side. the last couple of months. So,
Dude, we understand. When I went through my custody battle, I went from 5 a day to 2 packs a day. So,
so I'm sitting out in front of Fernando's with my friend Aaron and a few other local friends, enjoying a cigarette while we're all down there visiting Fernando's for what has become known as FernandoCon. It was a fundraiser that we were holding to try to save Fernando's here in Pittsburgh. It's a wonderful, wonderful little deli shop. As I'm enjoying my cigarette, I hear a tapping.
A rap tap tapping on your window?
As if someone gently rapping on my chamber door.
Thank you, I was hoping.
And as I turned around, I see this little one looking up at me through the window pane. And she gives me this ever so quaint, no, she gives me this ever so quaint, now, I'm used to people screaming at me when they want my attention. Example, military, you know what, I don't even have to go into that example. I'm used to people actually being vocal and loud when trying to get me to pay attention or to do something. When somebody decides to do something subtle,
Well, I didn't want to yell at you through the window.
That unnerves me. When it is a child doing something subtle, it is even more so unnerving. So I go inside. I pass Erin my cigarette, and I go inside. And I look down at her, and I say, "Yes, dear." And she looks up at me with that cute little smile. And this.
I don't remember this very well.
And so I lean down. I'm like, yes.
Yes.
At which point she seizes control of my ear between 2 fingers and tugs and leads me to the corner booth and sits me down and proceeds to lecture me
I didn't lecture
for
you.
a half an hour
What?
about smoking and why I shouldn't be doing it.
No.
Mm-hmm.
What? I don't remember that at all.
You don't have to, because he has.
Oh, I remember.
After which she made me pinky promise that I would quit, which is why I ended up buying this. Because it's not just the nicotine for me, hence why a patch won't work.
It's the habit.
I have the habit, I have the oral fixation, I have, the hands, the entire motion.
it's called, you're addicted to the ritual of smoking.
That's actually a really smart way of putting it. I hadn't heard that expression before.
It's the most appropriate expression I can possibly come up with it.
Yeah.
So aside from my recent relapse, I have been trying to quit. It has just taken some time.
Baby steps, man.
But yes, intimidation would be the word.
Oh.
Congratulations. You scared somebody who was in the military who had pieces of himself blown up. Well done.
I knew it was bad, and I didn't want
I'm just playing with you, Tiny.
No, he's not at all. He's totally serious. Totally serious.
Tiny, just think of it as a learning experience that different people, depending on what they're used to, how they're brought up, what their environmental variables that they're accustomed to, what you think of as normal everyday experiences or interactions can have a drastic effect on another person. Like me, when I talk with my son, and I'm trying to do something in terms of positive reinforcement of a correction of a behavior, I will get down on one knee so that I'm eye level with him and make sure that I talk to him eye level. His mother doesn't do that. She looks down on him, she shouts, she yells, she's a very violent person. And so raising my voice to my son has no effect. If I want to affect him, I get down, I look him in the eye, and I lower my voice, and I become very articulated. I enunciate my words very carefully and very purposefully. And it gets his attention as if somebody had dumped a bucket of cold water over his head. And no, I'm not supporting the ALS because I don't support marketing routines like that. If people want to support ALS, it's because it's something that they feel the need to support. It's something that affects their lives or lives of their loved ones. Like I support Child's Play because, kids.
Gotcha.
So, but
For a second
that's
there,
what
I was
happens. Whereas
confused.
you might come across other people where that trying to talk to their kids in a quiet voice doesn't work. You have to talk to them like Joe is used to, which is the yelling, the screaming, the commanding power voice.
See, I was confused there for a moment, because for a moment there, I thought you were in support of voodoo dolls and,
Yeah, every once in a while. Sorry about that. I gotta work on the video. Every
child's
once in a
play
while,
joke. Okay, I get it. Nobody gets it.
No, I got it. The
Chucky,
audio
right?
system. The audio system on my computer every once in a while has this weird buzz that goes through. And I haven't been able to identify it, and I don't know if it's a hardware thing or if it's because of the audio drivers that Ubuntu Linux is working with. But every once in a while it does something. It's just a big old pain
Are
in the
you
butt.
using Y-splittered off of the same audio output, or
Yes, but that's not the problem.
No. I wasn't
stipulating.
stipulating that was the problem. I was going to say, if you're not doing that, if you have two audio outputs like I do, I have one in the front and one in the back, and if you try to use both at the same time, it creates complications in the system.
I've got 4.
No, there's 6 in the back, but there's a main audio out in the back for headphones,
I mean,
and an audio out in the front for headphones, and if you try to use both,
that's what I mean. I've got 4 different jacks on my computer that run headphones. One comes off of my microphone, one comes off of my speakers, one comes off of my the front of my tower, one comes off the back of my tower.
And a partridge in a pear tree. Okay.
I could hook up some surround sound if I wanted to.
Yeah, but let's see about that. All right, so now that we've got that piece out of the way,
And he said partridge, not parrot.
Yes, exactly. So let's kind of do it this way. Since I could just as easily ask, almost anything of her that I would already know. What kind of stuff would you guys want to try to ask? Or, stuff that maybe from your own past that you're kind of wondering, okay, how would this new little brain and such
Just to
kind of go
clarify.
with this stuff?
Just
Yeah.
to clarify. What is your name? Not you.
What?
What?
What's your handle
is
time?
Your name.
Go ahead. Not your handle, your nickname.
Tiny Tribble.
What is your quest?
That's just the best life possible.
What is your favorite color?
Purple.
Okay, you can go.
Yay!
He's doing a Quest for the Holy Grail skit routine.
Yes. Which is also another way of saying, hey, Witchy, guess what? Since you weren't here, you can't claim purple anymore. Nice.
Yes, for not responding to the...
Tiny, he's off his meds. Don't just ignore him.
Keep that in mind. Okay, so
Oh, wait.
Tic Tacs.
orange Tic Tacs, no less. That's bad.
Tax, not take max.
Shush. Anyway,
Oh
all
my
right. So
God.
let's go this way. First off, let me bring you over this way because, like I said, we did not exactly figure out how to get us both in here at the same time. You might have guessed
We
it's a
need
little
a-
bit.
we need
Well, we've kind of
office
killed
or more
40
room.
minutes. We've kind of killed 40 minutes of, or almost 50% of a video cast that's supposed to be revolving around Tiny Tribble and her experiences as a non-believing child. No offense. By child, I define a person who is under the age of 18 years old. I am no way saying that your mentality is average, below average, childlike in nature, or any less respectable than the people here before you. Okay,
In other words, he's referring to you as child with an E at the end.
No, I'm referring as child in the term of legal sense of age limit only. Okay, because at the age of 18, you're defined as an adult in this country. Well, it depends on what state you live in, anyway. But so that's the only reference I make to making you a child. As a young adult who's up and coming, how has the fact that well, first off, let's hear it from your mouth what you do or do not believe in terms of their possibility of there being any kind of deity, regardless of faith, origin, or relationship, whatever. How do you feel about the possibility of a deity of any form?
I don't think it's really likely. I mean, it maybe could happen, but there really hasn't been any evidence for it, so I don't know. Probably not.
Well, now see, this is where it gets to be fun because I get to toy with it a little bit. Now, wait a minute. We've had evidence for Thor
Oh.
and Loki and Odin and his eight-legged horse. So
How do we have evidence for Thor?
He's in the Avengers.
what? You haven't seen the movies? Really? Documentaries all over the place.
Oh, you mean the frost giants in Odin, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I know I'm kind of making a joke about it, but one of the book series that you've been reading is Percy Jackson.
Yep.
So,
Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
okay, so Percy Jackson revolves around. No, you don't have the hair for it. Percy Jackson revolves around which mythological organizations?
Greek and Roman gods.
Okay, and it's. I know you've said on many an occasion it's a fun idea to think that maybe, just maybe.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
Okay. But
Really? Oh, awesome. I would not want to see Aphrodite in this world.
Yeah.
Why?
Because of the kind of chaos that woman created.
That's the thing. If I learned anything from Clash of the Titans, it's that if we lived under the rule of Greek and Roman gods, they are some fickle individuals.
At least they're better than the Titans. Definitely better than the Giants.
by the way, Joe, fickle. Good choice of words. Very, very well played.
Well, which Titans are you talking about? Because in Attack on Titans, it learns that there's a possibility of controlling them.
The ones from Greek mythology, Hyperion and the
Prometheus and all them.
Yeah. Well, Prometheus was okay. I mean, he did give fire to mankind, supposedly. Although he got chained to a mountain and have his liver plucked out for all eternity, so that kind of stinks.
Talk about a pink slip.
We're not racing cars. No pinks.
Nicely played.
Not that kind of pink slip, you.
Okay, so now that we know that the short version is that you think that's the idea of some of the gods from past history that are referenced, regardless of where they're from, would be interesting to if in theory, but due to a lack of, I'm going to expand empirical evidence. I'm going to correct.
Right, which is different from historical evidence, remember, as we've learned from...
Right. Empirical evidence is
Wolverine.
evidence that you can actually test. Due to the lack of empirical evidence, you don't see any proof of existence. Okay, cool. So we've got that squared away. Now, if you got to be the teacher tomorrow, or tomorrow, Monday at school, what would your first lesson plan be?
Teacher at school on Monday?
Yeah, if you got to be the teacher.
I would still be at home kicking back on my 3DS because I have no school on Monday.
Oh, it's Labor Day. I'm sorry. Okay, on Tuesday. Your next day back at school. If you got to be teacher...
I'm going to pretend you said Thursday because school starts at Thursday.
I'm sorry. My son started school last week, and down here in Maryland, they started school the week before that.
Well, there you go. Okay,
so I apologize.
Okay, so assuming first day of school, no matter when that's supposed to be,
okay.
What do you think would be one of the first things that you would want to teach, I guess?
I don't know.
No, that's not a bad answer, really. I mean, even as somebody myself, I had wanted to be a teacher for music. So even for me, all these years later, truthfully, I'm not even sure where I would want to start, and a lot of that would really depend as to what grade and what specialization, if any. I mean, as we know full well, in grammar school, elementary school, you have to be a jack of all trades, and as you get up higher and higher, you specialize more and more.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm actually in the process of looking into a program that goes with my GI Bill, which is what I'm using for college right now, something called Troops to Teachers, where they will help you to acquire your teaching degree in whatever field you like. And I definitely am going to make it one of two fields. Now, I love science. I hate math. I'm good at math. I just hate math. But if I'm going to teach children, it's going to be one of two subjects.
Military discipline?
No. One might be art. Because my art teachers, when I was growing up, I'm not going to talk about everything that happened back then because it's a very depressing story. However, my art teachers, Mrs. Pope and Mrs. Rose, they helped me get my life on track before I reached adulthood. They helped me pull myself out of the gutter. And the power that an art teacher can have, you can have just, your typical zany art teacher, but if you have one that really knows what they're doing, not just as far as art goes, but also, in principle, you'd be amazed at what they can do. However, I would say most likely, I'd want to teach history. There's so many fun things to talk about with history. So many.
Yeah, and that's something that we've talked about on a couple times. How I've tried to explain to you more than just the facts, figures of history, the stories behind stuff. And I think that's I think that you've liked that more than just the memorize this, spit this back on a test. Okay, next item.
I mean, it helps in class that you kind of have to take all of the notes, and they show you what to write down. And I guess writing it down kind of helps you remember it. And I remember for a test and for the finals. After that, I can barely remember anything.
Are they still doing Regents up there in New York?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Regents. Well, the system is Regents doesn't exactly hit at this level for her, fortunately.
Right.
That ends
it's
up
high school.
Right. Exactly. So.
Right.
Which,
but in my junior high at the time, they did practice Regents.
I don't. Best of my knowledge, I don't think you guys have done.
Okay.
Not all schools did that. My school did it just because they wanted us to kind of really get an understanding of what the exams were like compared to our finals. And the best analogy I can make for Regents, Tiny, because I've been there, I went through it, is that think of your final exam and then think of it 3 times harder, and that's a Regents exam. But the beauty of that is the way the Regents system works is you could be failing the class, you could have turned in 0 homework, done none of your journal, done none of your lab experiments, none of your tests, you'd be going in with a big fat 0. And you pass your Regents exam, the school has to give you a passing mark for your class and move you up to the next one. Because you obviously know the material. So when you go into a Regents exam, it doesn't matter what your class score is, whether you're passing or failing. If you know the material and you can pass the Regents, you're going on to the next one. That's the beauty of it.
Well, it's not like I'm going to fail.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's one of the things that we've always worked on, making sure that you know your stuff.
Yep.
And not just from repeating it back and forth, but from actually understanding it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've joked and I've talked a lot on many an occasion about how I taught her multiplication and division even as early as 1st grade, and getting basically berated for it. But I was able to explain to her at 1st grade the concept of how multiplication and division works, and in a way that made sense for her at that time. Now, I mean, let's be fair.
It's adding and subtracting large groups of numbers, and that's I did the same thing with my son. This year over the summer, mind you, he's 8 years old. Over the summer, I explained and walked him through the process of how to figure out a square root,
which is not an easy concept to get.
I didn't learn that until junior high.
Yeah, but once you get the concept of how it's supposed to work,
right,
it's actually a pretty cool thing.
I know what a square root is, I just don't know how to figure it out.
Oh, it's real simple. 4, right? Take the number 4. What 2 numbers multiplied together equal 4?
It's easy, too.
Okay, the other grouping of numbers that can equal 4 is 1 times 4.
Yeah.
All right, but for our purposes, we'd rather have 2. And those 2 numbers are the same number, so you can put that as your answer. Now, what about the number 6?
6.
Two and
Wait,
3.
why are you toying with her?
2 times 3 is 6, right?
Right.
And 1 times 6 is 6.
However,
wouldn't you have to
6
find the average of 2 and 3? Wouldn't it be 2.5?
That's the thing. 6 does not have a square root.
It doesn't have a
whole square root.
Right. It does not have a whole number.
Wouldn't it be 2.5?
No. You're thinking of something different. 8 has a square root with a remainder. The 8 can be broken down into 2 times 4, and then the 4 we know can be broken down into 2 times 2. So we have 3 number 2s to make number 8.
Maybe we should save math lessons until I actually start school. Wasn't this supposed to be a question?
Let her enjoy her summer, you monster!
Well, I was doing this with my son, and he was actually picking it up, and it wouldn't surprise me if his strongest courses were math and science, the way mine were, and the way my father's were, while him having problems with things like history and those other types of courses, the same way I had problems with them, the same way my dad had problems with them. It seems to run in the family. That if you are mathematically inclined, scientifically inclined, and even artistically, like he likes to sing, he likes to play musical instruments, once again, that's just a supporter for math right there. We tend to have a downside on like the history sections and other forms of classes.
Before we get too far off subject, Tiny Tribble.
Wait a minute. Listen.
Right.
Yes, it is. You actually heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, raining?
Yes, it is raining again out here. It was torrential earlier today.
No? Okay.
Question.
Tribble, tiny one.
Oh, he means you.
You identify yourself as what? Atheist? Agnostic? What label do you use to identify yourself, or do you bother with a label?
I don't really know. I mean, I guess, yeah, I would be considered an atheist. Maybe a secular humanist.
There we go.
Okay.
Wonderful. Now, when dealing with other children of your age, do you draw any, shall we say, now, I know when I was growing up, when I was in school, any reason they could find to rip you apart, they used it. Do you ever have issues with classmates or just peers in school involving, or that stem from your particular views on theology?
Not really. Not a lot of people know. I don't really tell anyone unless they're actually my friends. Because, I don't know, I kind of feel like if they're not really my friends, then there's really what's the point of telling them?
In other words, you don't go around broadcasting it.
Precisely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have you ever mentioned it to, say, a teacher or someone of that degree?
No.
No? Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, because remember, for you, the experience that you're having at this point, in this point in your life, is vastly different from us. I mean, even when you don't go into the theological part of it all, you are a unique personality. You are a unique person, same as everybody else. You're a special little snowflake, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
As the term goes.
Lucky for you, most kids these days are more interested in keeping their faces buried in their smartphones instead of chasing other kids around and beating the crap out of them.
Yeah, which is, I mean, well, we've talked about that. What I had to go through, that had nothing to do with anything other than just. You know what? I would not normally name names, but it's a generic enough name. It's just because John was being a dick. All right, there's no two ways about.
Wait, so John was imitating Richard, or
Really? Do I really have to spell it out for you?
You're the one that said it. I had to use it.
Yes, Wheaton's Rule. If you don't know Wheaton's Rule, look it up. Anyway.
So, Tiny, question for you. If any, what religious texts have you read? And if any that you have read, how far have you gotten through? Like, how much have you completed? Half, a whole, quarter, 3/4? You get the idea. Rough estimates. Yeah. It doesn't have to be exact.
I've read about 5 pages of the Bible.
Yeah, that was arduous enough right there, wasn't it?
You lucky child.
Let me guess, you opened it up right to Genesis and tried to get through the name section, didn't you?
The creation of the world. I'm not sure how far I got because it was a pretty long time ago, but it's just
but you've
weird.
Yeah, you've had an opportunity to hear bits and pieces of it also. Now, there are going to be people who are going to give me hell for this, and you know what? Piss off. Really, there's no other way of putting it. We listen to a lot of podcasts together, including Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson, which we both think is absolutely fabulous.
Please don't tell me you're letting her listen to Heath.
As a matter of fact, yes, we do.
Oh, wow.
Tech.
Wow.
You might as well forget all your preconceptions because he lets her listen to 2.
Yes.
Oh, I ruined your face. I ruined your face.
See, look at him. Look at him.
I ruined your face. I took a chance on spreading out both the face.
I beat him with a bomb and blew up your brains.
Okay, so
Enough of that.
Let me explain about this. For those that are unaware, Keith is more than half of the Scathing Atheist podcast, and yes,
Just don't
we
tell
do
Noah
listen.
that.
Yes. Well, whatever.
We
Noah.
donated money.
Anyway.
What the?
What?
I found something very strange, a little off topic, I'm sorry, but I found something that just caught me completely off guard.
Okay.
2 Cents has a wiki. Not like a page in Wikipedia, but its own wiki.
Oh my.
Really?
Is 2 cents any related to 50 Cent?
No. Oh God, no.
2 Cents, spelled the number 2, SENSE, is the essentially garage talk show of To the Ranting Griffin and various co-hosts. For a long time, it was Jibba.
And Auburn and a bunch of others over the years.
Yeah, DJ Ear, Toast, whom there's some stories about Toast. Anyway.
Yes, they're engaged. So
No. Involving Toast. You know what? I will talk.
Let it go.
I will discuss them later.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Fine. Anyway.
I simply looked up, I Ruined Your Face to try to actually find the poem again, and the very first thing that pops up in Google, I Ruined Your Face, 2 Cents Wiki.
The very first.
Yes. 2 cents.wikia, that's wiki with an A at the end, .com/wiki/I_ruined_your_face. Show number 158.
You do realize, of course, that steadily we're getting closer and closer to that number.
Might as well, calm yourself, Shu. We're not there yet.
No, we're not. But I'm calling out directly at this point. Jake Farwharton, Sir Jake Far, Doctor Sir Jake.
Just get it over with.
Fine, Jake.
I'm tired
We
of
will
this
catch up
joke.
to you. Oh yes, we will catch up to you. And it'll be
Yeah,
glorious.
only if they stop for about 2 years.
Just sum it up. Jake, insert title here.
Right.
Mr. Professor Dr. Sir Jake Farwharton III Esquire.
Esquire, that's right.
Yay, I got it on the first try, unlike you. You are not too pro.
Wow. Anyway, okay, so for those that are unaware of the Scathing Atheist podcast, they are highly irreverent, to put it nicely.
Basically, if you are offended by words, don't listen to it.
Right. Now, there's a reason why I have allowed her to listen to 2 Cents and Scathing Atheist and a lot of these things that other people would say, children should not listen to this. It's because we do it in such a fashion that we talk about, we discuss. We have a relationship where we talk through what is actually meant by whatever it is that they say. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, with your child here.
Yes.
Here's the thing about people who make a big boo and stink about you letting her watch those shows. You're talking about the language, right?
Yes, exactly.
Here's something that people just treating their children like they're porcelain eggs, carrying their children around with kid gloves and such. Look, I'm pretty sure before you watched those shows, Tiny, you'd probably heard those words elsewhere. You're going to hear these words because they're words and they're spoken by almost everybody on the planet. And whether offhand or not, you're going to hear these words. Here's something about words. Words are powerful. Words can be poetic. They can be destructive. But the thing is, they're words. at the end of the day, words can be powerful, indeed, but they also will not cause physical harm to you. So if you get offended over a particular word, there's...
I think the point he's trying to make is that only you can allow yourself to become angered at what you experience. There is a slight problem with what Joe has to say, and this is where I'm going to kind of mince words with you, so to speak, is that scientists have proven that when we relive a memory, we really relive it. Our brain reproduces the experience for us. That's why when we remember, why smell tends to trigger memories, or sounds or touch can trigger vivid memories, because it actually triggers the experience. Our heart, if it was an experience that caused our heart to palpitate, it happens. We might get goosebumps. We might remember a smell of something that was either pleasant, offensive, or anything in between, and also the emotions behind that experience. So in one sense, words can truly harm people. It can hurt them. It can cause them to relive a memory that brings them emotional and a physical response that's negative.
Yes.
So if you're talking to somebody who you have prior knowledge of, that let's say this person had an abortion, a woman, and she had a very negative experience. Let's say the doctor was inept and caused physical harm to her insides in a manner that should never have happened.
Well,
okay?
let's just call it complications and just
complications, exactly. That's what I was going for.
It's getting a little tired,
you tell a joke about a homesick abortion.
It's okay, keep going.
And you have a joke in your head, and the punchline of the joke is a homesick abortion. Okay. Do you, with your prior knowledge, tell this joke to that person?
That's the thing. I'm not discussing situational partaking of certain vocabulary, which could be any word whatsoever. I'm focusing primarily on what everybody typically deems as colorful or distasteful language. We're going the George Carlin route here. There are any word in the English language could trigger a bad reaction in somebody based on a memory. Well, any word in any language, really. But you know what I meant, right?
Right.
I do. I personally know what you meant, but okay. I wanted to bring up to Tiny to light that there are situations where your words can physically harm somebody. In what we have recently learned of science, of the human brain and how it functions. Now remember, we didn't have this knowledge 30, 40 years ago. Okay, so back then, words really supposedly couldn't hurt, couldn't cause physical harm.
Right. Okay, so now, again, apologies for, shifting us around and whatnot. It's just a matter of trying to find a comfortable way of doing all this.
I think our audience would much rather look at her than you.
In other words, what he's saying is, get off the screen.
Nice. And you know what, Tech? Right back at you.
Oh, come on.
So the...
Dude, I know they don't want to stare at me. They're too busy staring at my beard.
Yeah, could we get the beard without all the rest that's attached?
I think it's all part and parcel, dude.
Just a giant floating beard in the middle of the screen.
Forget the flying spaghetti monster. We've got the flying disembodied beard.
If there is a God, don't you imagine that would be...
That would be great.
The God of hairstyles and beard styles.
Yes, a huge disembodied beard just hanging. Well, actually, that's kind of like the grandchild of the flying spaghetti monster, if you think about it.
Or it could just be my chopped off hair.
This is not the grandchild of the flying spaghetti monster. If you notice these curls, that's where the FSM took its cue from.
Oh, there you go. That explains it all. Okay. So, getting back on track.
Yeah.
The reason for allowing her to listen to stuff like Scathing Atheist is because we can talk about what is it that they're talking about, why is it that they're talking about it, why are they using the words that they use. Now, of course, there are, as George Carlin, as you pointed out, Joe, there are the 7 big words that you don't use. And remind me, Joe, how many did he expand it to when all was said and done? Like a dozen or so? Without
but then he
naming
condensed them back down again into the originals.
Yes, that's the thing. He went through each of the 7 and then went into offshoots and discussed possible additions, but he kept it down to 7.
Okay.
Because certain ones he would mention that did not fit his criteria for what could be considered a dirty word. For example, parts of anatomy.
Yeah. Okay. Which is a whole other thing. Which is a big old pain in the butt.
Excuse me. Parts of anatomy that can also the word for which can also mean something else.
No, for instance, ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, donkey.
Yeah, exactly. Or mule, or whatever. Anyway, but the point of it is, sooner or later, language needs to be understood. And if it's not, it serves no practical purpose. So, for as long back as I can think of, and I think as early as probably 6, you'd heard some of 2. Could be.
I think so.
Yeah, something like that. So, but the point of it is, we were able to do exactly what they've always said you should do. Talk and discuss. Stop and explain what's going on. Which is no different, seriously, no different than when parents were told and encouraged, when you watch this episode of Sesame Street, when your family is all around with you, this Thanksgiving, please discuss this important topic, which is the death of Mr. Hooper. Now, some people don't understand this reference. Those who went through it back in the day remember this vividly. Tech, I'm kind of wondering, you remember this?
Yeah, I remember the death of Mr. Cooper.
Joe, I don't remember if you were old enough for that one at the time.
Nah, I've seen it.
Okay. I've discussed this before on when I was doing the flashback newscast. One of the original main characters of Sesame Street was Mr. Hooper. He was the gentleman who worked at Hooper's store, owned it, way back when. And in real life, he died. And they knew that it was coming, and they intentionally wrote the episode in order to talk about it, to visit him in the hospital, to not shy away from the topic. And they intentionally released it for Thanksgiving, so that the kids would be around family and extended family, and would be around with people that would love and trust and help them to understand the situation. And it was one of the most powerful pieces of children's television. And we've kind of discussed it. We've talked about it. It's been a long time since we talked about it. But the entire purpose of talking through stuff like Scathing Atheist and all these others is for exactly that reason. I mean, when all is said and done, you understand what it is that they're talking about and why they're choosing to use the words that they use. And a lot of the times it's because it's superlatives, that they are trying to use terms that are out of the usual in order to explain just the level of whatever it is that they're trying to get across to people. And I think that so far you've really learned that lesson very, very well. And that's how I've felt about it. How have you felt about it? Oh yeah, there it is again. I heard it this time.
God.
Yeah, it's
so annoying.
Well, just pull it off of your head for a couple seconds. So, for you, how have you? How's it been for you to? I know at first it's a little bit uncomfortable because it's a weird it's a weird thing that you don't usually hear most of the time, except on the school bus, of course. But I don't know. Does it scare you? Does it offend you? How do you feel about having the latitude, the freedom to listen to these podcasts and with whatever language they're using?
I mean, I don't really get the question.
Well, that's kind of explain it. I'm not sure how to.
I don't think she's going to be. I'm not trying to put you down.
No.
I think what you're trying to do is ask her a question in the context of, as a young adult who has the freedom to listen to such things that most children are usually forbidden from listening to, how does that make you feel having that kind of freedom? Or privilege? It actually should be a little bit more of a privilege, because in an environment where most people people of your age are not getting access to certain types of materials, and here you are having wide open access to all of it, that could be viewed as a privilege. But how does that make you feel, being able to listen, to experience it, to talk to it about it with your dad, when you think about the fact that most other children, even your age and even in some cases older than you, won't be able to do that or are not allowed to do that? How does that make you feel knowing that?
I don't really feel very. I don't feel very different, because kind of. I don't know.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, because it's for you, it's normal, right?
Yeah.
Right. And no offense to you, Susan, I would kind of expect that answer from Tiny, because you've given her, as we discussed about, every child's different in their experiences growing up, like what we did with Joe, and how Tiny actually intimidated him by being very quiet, very very subtle. That kind of subtlety can be intimidating to somebody such as Joe in certain situations.
No. All I really remember about that is that I threatened to beat him with my tail and then told him to stop smoking.
You threatened to turn me into a pony.
What? Oh yeah, Pony OC.
Wow.
I forgot about that.
That's awesome.
It would make a Pony OC of you.
Yeah, could you just see the delight on his face?
How does it make you... What are the first thoughts that come to your head or to your mind when you realize that these other children, these other young adults, could right now have the opportunity to sit down and listen and learn the things that you have listened and learned, but that their parents aren't letting them? How does that make you feel about those other children, the other young adults?
I think the fact that their parents won't let them is kind of stupid. Because I have a lot more knowledge about skepticism and atheism and what's happening on a lot of those things than most children do. And if their parents really won't let them, then I don't get the point of that, because isn't a parent's job to help them learn?
That's I mean, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
My position has always been that we as parents are the custodians until it's time for you to take over for your own self. Joe?
Yeah, pretty much. Telling somebody, telling a young human being that they cannot watch something or listen to something or whatever just based on a few choice words doesn't make sense, regardless of how you try to justify it. In the end, there's so much worse stuff they could be watching, like Fox News.
Oh, God.
You want to talk about something truly offensive?
I would rather watch the shopping channel than Fox News.
Oh yes, I love the Home Shopping Network, especially when they come on with the Technobond stuff, which is where they bond platinum with stainless steel so it doesn't tarnish.
Do they also sell new webcams over there, by the way?
Haha.
Yes, I know.
You got to buy the computer to get the brand new webcam.
Oh, that actually blows.
Well, actually, you know what? I have a question for Tiny. I want her opinion on something that I do with my son. And get your minds out of the gutters, gentlemen. It's not that kind of show.
No,
So, Tiny, my son likes to ask a lot of questions. He likes to ask why. And I like that question because it makes things interesting. Okay? So, like, one of the questions was, why is lightning so loud? And so we went into the general idea behind how lightning works and how it makes the sound and everything else, and he thought that was pretty cool. But every once in a while, he'll ask a question about why something works the way it does, and I'll do the generalization of the answer that I know he can understand, but then he'll ask a deeper why that requires a deeper background in math and science to understand those deeper whys. And I tell him at that point, I say, well, Peter, that's my son's first name. I'm sorry, he doesn't have a handle yet. I'll say, Peter, listen, buddy, you're just getting ready, in this case, to start third grade. You're going to be learning a lot more math and a lot more science. You really need to get into the math and science that comes with like 7th grade and 8th grade and 9th grade to understand how the rest of this stuff works. And that's kind of where I leave it, and he'll go, oh, okay. And I'll reinforce the importance of paying attention to his teachers in school and doing a good job. Do you think I'm taking an easy way out, or do you think I should, or do you think that's good enough to continue to encourage him on his education and to revisit it later on in life?
I'm not really sure.
You're not too sure?
No.
Right. Which to be fair, I mean that makes sense. Every person, not just student, but every person is different, and every person's passions need to be triggered in different ways. So the love of learning for every different topic is going to be different for every other person. So that doesn't totally surprise me.
I was just wondering if it felt like a cop-out to you or not. Because there are days I really want to give him the really long, awesome scientific or mathematical answer, or even, societal answer to some questions.
But Neil deGrasse Tyson, you are not.
Well, no, it's not that. It's that he doesn't have that educational. Well, he doesn't have the educational background foundation to support the understanding behind those answers. And
you must be level 5 to use this equipment. What the hell you mean I can't wear a hat? How hard can it be to wear a hat?
Were you playing World of Warcraft again? Or no, you were playing Team Fortress 2, right, when they came out with the hat system?
No, I was just referencing VG Cats, but...
Oh. It's okay.
But they were in turn referencing those things. So
What are you eating?
His next of kin.
many things to keep my urges sated. So just keeping myself occupied. However, I have questions,
He has an oral fixation.
if I may.
He's got to have something in his mouth at all times.
Tech.
Maybe you should get a straw and then bite it, because straws don't break normally.
That is a smart young lady you have there, sir.
Except mine always do. It's not that
That's why I use a button.
Anyway, so who,
You said you had a question?
if Tech can behave himself for
Shut up, Tack!
And so it begins,
Tech.
right at the end of the
Tech.
show.
Go to sleep, Tech. Tech, go to sleep. Go to sleep.
Joe,
Sleep.
go
Oh,
on.
I can't go to sleep. Somebody has to play some Amish Wolverine music for me.
We'll work on that. Joe, dude.
Excluding those here on the show, i.e. you can't pick your dad, who do you look to as, shall we say, a role model?
That is actually a very good question.
And now you know why I said, not your dad.
Hmm.
No, it's not even that. I don't really... I'm not sure that I really even have anyone as a role model.
That's interesting.
I didn't have one either when I was growing up, so.
Well, I kind of did, but that's Spider-Man, and well, let's face it, that's just because he was a loudmouth half the
I
time.
guess maybe if I had to choose just any... Can I choose... Well, obviously, since you said
pick
Spider-Man,
whatever
I can
you
choose
like.
someone fictional.
Yes, you know what? Even if it's somebody fictional, you know what?
Okay.
I will take my previous statement back. I did have a role model growing up as a child. What'd you do?
But... What? Did you step on that air thing?
I may have.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
I got a can of compressed air down over there. I think I hit it with my foot. Anyway.
I take it back. I did have a role model growing up, and for the same reason that people give you crap for letting her watch those shows or listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people that would give my parents crap for letting me read these. I read a series written by Stephen King.
Hmm.
It is not what you might think. Now, Tiny Tribble, what do you think when you hear the name Stephen King?
A clown?
Are you familiar with his work?
No.
Okay, well, generally speaking, Stephen King is an author, and generally speaking, he writes horror books and scripts for films. However, this particular series has nothing to do with horror. I mean, it does have something to do with horror, but it's more of kind of like Lord of the Rings, rather than his normal stuff. It's a lot of fantasy. It's a actual story, not just trying to scare people.
Okay.
The main character, the main protagonist in the series is Roland of Gilead.
The Gunslinger series. Or
Yes.
Dark Tower series, I mean.
Yes. And I would say that, growing up as somebody who did not have a father figure for a long, long time, that would be the only thing I could say was what could qualify as a role model for me. And I like to think it was a pretty good one. So yes.
That explains all the guns.
Hold on a second. All
Okay.
right, when it does that, all you can do, wiggling all that stuff doesn't do anything. It's internal to the system.
It does actually help.
Try turning it off and on again.
If
Oh,
only.
come on.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just pull it away from your ears, otherwise. All right, going on. Sorry.
So yes, even if it's somebody fictional, you know, from movies, TV, books, whatever. Role model. Go ahead.
If I had to pick one person,
Well, it could be Sarah.
maybe, I guess, some of the Greek gods. Athena, because she's very clever. She uses strategy rather than might to win battles. And, maybe, what else is there? Hestia, I think, goddess of the hearth. And, because she can...
Well, you have to project a little bit more. I know it's getting a little bit late, but...
Well, there's that. Like I said, I have two questions, but I'm going to add a third one. What's your favorite pony?
Favorite pony? Final Scratch.
Who?
Final Scratch.
Okay, so get Elrond on the phone. We need to have Athena writing Final Scratch in battle.
No.
Oh, good lord. No. Really? We're going to do that?
No,
Rondi, no. You're not. No.
I don't want this.
Don't.
I actually don't want this.
You're bad
so
man.
What was your other two questions?
My other one question. And this, again, is going to be potentially deep, as the role model one. Not sure of, you know, what you like, dislike, what's your favorite subject, stuff like that. But being that you are now 12 years old, you are 2/3 of the way through what could be described as your childhood. Which means you've only got 6 years left before you're going to join the rest of us ugly schlubs in the general adult populace, and at least make the general population at least that much cuter. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Ooh.
I was thinking maybe I could be a fashion designer.
Ooh, I know a couple of those.
I think that would be pretty cool. Definitely something involving kind of creativity, along with some math, maybe science, maybe cooking, baking. That'd be cool.
That would definitely be interesting. By the way, what you were asking before about role models, I want to kind of come back to that just a second, because I want to ask you, I want to lead you actually on this one. If we were to kind of expand it a little bit to a group that would be a role model, for instance, the nerd fighters, with their idea of, for those of you that are unaware, nerd fighters are a group that was coined by John and Hank Green, the Vlog brothers. And one of their big things is, as they've termed it, fighting to reduce world suck, which is basically their term for it. So if you're to go, okay. If you're to go with that as a possible, would you consider them as a role model for yourself or for others?
Yeah.
Okay, little bit more. What do you think of them? And
I think they're cool.
What he's saying,
nice and simple.
What he's saying is, in your own words, write a paragraph describing blah 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 blah. Yes or no answers will not be accepted.
Now you're making me seem like I'm such a... Wow. You just... Dude,
that's what you get!
You're making her rage quit. Do you feel happy for yourself?
What happened?
You made her take her headphones off. You made her rage quit you.
I didn't rage quit. It's not that I was mad, it's just I don't want to deal with that until school starts.
He's the one that asked the question.
Well, actually, the one that you pointed towards
Tiny?
is
Wait, hold on. Tiny, I've got one for you. If they ever, when you get back to school on your first day, if one of the teachers does one of those wonderful things that we all love to hate growing up, which is, okay, now get out a sheet of paper and write an essay on what you did over the summer. Just remember, make 3 paragraphs, make the first one, tell them what you're going to say. No. Forget all that lingo crap. Think of it like this. Part 1, the first paragraph, tell them what you're going to say. Part 2, the second paragraph, say it. Part 3, the final paragraph, tell them what you just said. If you remember essays in that manner, you'll never, ever have a problem writing an essay.
That doesn't help me much.
It does once you sit down.
No, it doesn't.
Well, sleep on it. It's late.
Or you could do like me and just fill out the entire sheet of paper in columns, writing over and over and over. All work and no play make
Jack a dull boy.
Oh, wow. Now, see, she's not going to get that reference whatsoever.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Well, you can just keep writing the word rosebud over again.
That, my dear, is an example of Stephen King's work.
Yeah, one of the characters in the story called The Shining, one of the characters was, he was a, what was it, a script writer?
Yes. Because problem with script writers back in the day was that, it was so hard to find work, so you needed to find some other form of income. And his other form was to be a groundskeeper.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily a groundskeeper, but house sitter, pretty much, for an old hotel.
Close enough.
Yeah, and one of the...
And he brought his whole family.
Yeah. And one of the most powerful scenes of the movie adaptation is where his mind is really just gone bye-bye. And he writes and writes and writes. All work and no play make Jack a dull boy, was it?
Yes.
And just wrote it over and over everywhere. Put it on the typewriter and wrote it on the walls, all over the place. So yeah, you don't want to see the situation.
So I have an on-topic question for Tiny.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have to get us wrapped up over here. So
okay,
you hit this last one.
So how did you feel when your dad told you about Santa Claus?
Well,
spoiler alert for anybody watching this as children, you might want to send them out of the room now. Especially if you've been lying to him all these years.
Well, let's be fair about this. How was the discovery finally made? Do you remember?
I guess it was just kind of... Some of the kids at school were just saying, no, he isn't real, and I kind of went into that. And I've known it for a few years before I finally told you, but the 2 things that made me the most unhappy, one, that you actually confirmed it, and 2, that you felt that you had to do that.
That I had to...
lie to me.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
It doesn't have to be fair, though. Remember that, Susan. Because nowhere on any of our birth certificates does it say fair.
True, but by fair, what I mean is it's what she's saying is it's a fair cop. As we've learned, unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be, the mythos of Santa, the Christmas mythos, is something that's been very ingrained, especially here in America, in quite a... it's not necessarily a bad way or a good way. It just is however it is. And it's, for a lot of people, it's considered almost like a rite of passage. That it's one of the first things that you break through to understand. And the magic, for lack of a better way of putting it, of suddenly presents and suddenly gifts where there had not been before is kind of a thing. And I will be honest, if I had thought that it would have been unpleasant as an experience that way, if I had known that that would have been your feeling towards it, I would not have continued it. I truly would not have, because I've always wanted for you to have as normal a childhood as possible. I mean, that was the whole point, and we've talked about that on many occasions. That was the biggest thing that Mom and I wanted to do, to have you have as normal a childhood as possible, which in our particular situation, as we've discussed before, is not the easiest thing in the world. Growing up in a non-believing household with a single-parent house because of death is a lot more unusual than it is common, and good for that. But we always wanted to make it as normal as possible for you. And if I had known that that kind of thing was upsetting, truly believe me when I say I would not have continued, because I thought that it was fun for you, for that, and that's the reason why I continued it, not for any reason of malice whatsoever.
No, it was fun.
Mm.
I knew that I wasn't real myself, but when you finally confirmed it, that just... it's like pressing the detonator button on a bomb. Just blew up in my face.
That I confirmed that it was me instead of anything else.
Yeah, because it was fun to pretend. And I feel like that kind of just took something away from it.
Fair enough.
What? Hey, Tiny. Going with that mindset that you've shared with us, what if you were in your father's position right now? You're the adult. You have a child, daughter, son, doesn't matter. Whatever you want to envision, and you're at the point where you're thinking about telling them Santa Claus, but now you are looking back at your own experience in your head. What would you do differently? If anything at all.
That's not an easy question to go through, I don't think.
If that's something that you need time to think about, take the time to think about it, because that's something that we can always revisit later.
You're cruel, man.
I don't want to think about it.
And that's a fair answer too. The problem that we have as adults is that we look back on our growing up experiences, our childhood experiences, through a very, very deep lens of decades later. So it's really tough for us to reimagine, in a lot of cases, re-envision what we would think of something back at that time.
Remember I was telling you about the words can actually hurt somebody due to their memories. Well, the thing is when you have put 10 or 20 or even 30 years between you and your childhood, the feelings, the emotional experiences that you had from that time, they're kind of dumbed down a little bit. They're less, in many cases, not every case, but many cases, they don't have as much push to make your heart palpitate or make your hair stand up on edge or remember that smell. Maybe the smell which was strongly smelled of chicken now only smells slightly like chicken. Everything's calmed down a bit. So when we look back at our own childhoods, everything's not fresh. For you, a lot of that's still fresh because it's very close in time for you now and between now and when it happened. But for us, when it happened to us, we've got, for me, I've got over 20 years distance between the time that happened and now. So that is,
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And for your memories, especially when it's like me who has memory problems to begin with, that's a lot. So I don't remember very vividly a lot of my own experiences. And I'm afraid I incidentally, out of anger, created a different experience for my own son. But, and we had a heated debate, and he got very angry. He said something very nasty, and how he was going to wish for Santa to actually take action, the way somebody would pray to a god to take action. And I said, well, I'm not going to do it. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I'm Santa Claus. And I had, what I did was after we both calmed down, I explained to him, I said, Peter, one thing I want you to understand is that at some point in our history, and by our, I mean the history of people, there was a person named Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus or however the name translates. But right now, what lives is his tradition, and each and every parent is Santa Claus for their own child. And he really sat down and, at 8 years old, he really thought about it. And about a week later, he came up to me and he gave me a big hug and he said, I'm really glad you're Santa Claus. And he understands that I don't have a sleigh or I don't have a reindeer, so we won't have to do that. But I did explain to him I did enjoy the milk and cookies. It's great after carrying all the presents up and down the stairs constantly. The milk and cookies were a great treat. And so I think he wants to leave them out again this year. But my understanding is you heard about it when you were 10, right?
As far as to...
yeah, the reveal was at 10, I believe.
Give or take, probably... roughly. Close enough.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
9, 10, 11?
No, because I don't remember a single Christmas that I haven't thought that wished for Santa to bring me something.
Okay.
But what I don't intend to do this year is change up how we did our present system. What I would do with my son every year is that we would go through Toys R Us with my phone, and my cell phone right here, and we'd take pictures of the toys that he'd want to ask Santa for. And we would always pick out, once we get home, we'd load up the pictures on my computer, and we would sort through them, and we'd make a list of 2 big toys and 3 little toys that we would ask Santa for every year. And he didn't always get them all, and in some cases he actually got more than what he wanted because I'd send the list off to my sister. Maybe she was interested in finding him something, and she didn't have her own idea, so I'd give her that list. And I don't plan to change that at all for him. They're still going to be, the toys are not going to be under the tree until after he goes to sleep. I'm still going to buy some extra cookies that he can leave out. We're still going to put the stockings up. We're still going to put up the Christmas tree and the lights and everything else. But the difference is now he doesn't have to worry about a big fat man waiting for him to go to sleep.
And
well, wait, no, I am a big fat man. Never mind, he still has to worry about that. And I have the beard to go with it.
And
why are we talking about Christmas? And
because
it's weird.
Well, the thing is
I don't wanna.
And you know what?
It's still August.
Yeah, well, true enough. But plus,
it's the 31st.
Yeah. Plus, at this point, we're getting on late, and we're getting on to 2 o'clock in the morning, and now would be a good time to see about just cutting us off and getting to bed. Because I don't know about you, but sleep would be good.
Sleep is overrated. No, sleep is good.
All I can say is this one little bit of wisdom.
It's upside down.
You've got that upside down.
I'm just gesturing. I'm not actually showing that.
It's a good thing.
Shush.
I don't like those men's. Those men's burn my tongue off.
as far as your life goes right now, don't worry about the future too much. The most important thing is to make your life where you're at right now, make it as great as you can.
I've already said that to myself a lot.
And trust me, I'm looking at it right now. Once telescopy sets in, you'll understand what I mean. And no, it's nothing to do with that.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I know that if I spend too much time trying to see forward or too much time looking back, then I'll miss what's now and then just get me wishing all over again.
There is that.
The reminiscence effect is a pain in the butt. But anyway, sure.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to call it at this point. We may end up seeing about talking about other stuff in this realm later. Definitely not tonight, because that's more than enough, I think, for one night, especially considering school starting up later this week. So let's go ahead and close this off over here. As always, thank you everyone who has stuck it out to the very end of it all. We do appreciate it. We know full well that this is not a sexy vlogcast, but again, as always, we do feel that it's been worthwhile on many an occasion.
Well, my beard
Joe?
is very sexy.
Joe, of course, as always, thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure as always. Anyone, I'm glad you could make it down. I apologize for the big bearded one.
Thanks ever so much. Speaking of which, Tech, thank you very much for your time, as always.
Absolutely. Gratuitous beard shot. Here we go.
Yay!
Yeah.
Diet blue!
Yes, I've had one of those before.
Tiny, it was great having you on the shows.
What's happening?
What did you do?
If he's gonna have gratuitous beard shot.
Oh god, he's gonna go get his AR-15. Oh, is that a Benelli?
No.
Oh.
If you're gonna be gratuitous, I can be gratuitous too.
If he fires off a shell in the house, that's
Oh,
just good.
Just know,
Yeah.
nothing there, as it should be. However, as we know full well from once before, rule number 1, the gun
Is always
loaded.
Yeah.
Right, Joe?
Yes, except for when the gun has no bolt. It's got the bolt carrier, but it doesn't have the bolt.
Doesn't matter, it's always
Yeah.
loaded.
It's always loaded except for when it's a water gun. And you can see that there's no ammo.
That's true. Tech, good night and thank you.
Good night, team.
Okay. And, of course, little one, thank you, man. I mean, I knew that this was going to be a little bit tough, and I really am proud that you decided to stick it out and stay up with us. And hopefully this won't be just the one time. Maybe sometime we'll do again. Maybe we'll record something in like a daylight hours, so it's not so tired.
Yay, daylight hours, holy crap.
Yeah, exactly. And so thank you. Thank you. Well, it's the name of the show, man. There's a reason for it. And I don't know. Is there anything that you'd like to close off for and tell folks about about kids?
I don't know what you mean by that. So...
Well, that's why I'm kind of leaving it open for you. If there's something that any last second item that you wanted to just say as a good night for folks that might be watching.
No.
Makes it easy that way. All right.
Bye.
So, what in the absolute blazes? Really?
What
A
the-
bowler? Before
No,
Labor Day,
wait,
you're going to wear a bowler?
Wait. What?
You're wearing a bowler
Oh,
before Labor Day.
gosh.
That's a huge fashion faux pas. You know that.
Tech.
My beard's red, by the way.
Tech.
What?
Tech.
He's listening. Whatever it is you're going to do it quick.
Okay. Stay right there. Are you waiting, Tech? Okay. Get that off. I'm speaking for every individual of Irish descent. Get that off right now.
No.
Alrighty then.
I just realized I had it sitting next to me. I just decided to have a good time.
I am the one with the hats.
Wonderful.
You have the beard with the hats. That's the way this works.
I have several hats, actually.
I had the hair, but now it's gone.
That's true. Anyway, as always, everyone, thank you very much for sticking it out to the very end. I don't know why you would have, but, you know, it's always appreciated. As always, great thank yous to the folks who have been on as co-hosts in the past, and special guests, of course. You guys who have been on before are part of the reason why I have decided to continue doing this, because keeping the word out, getting the word out, and being one more voice out there for science, rationality, reason, skepticism, atheism is necessary. So, thank you for your time.
That was great. The little yay at the end of violence.
What?
Let it go. In the meantime, as always, everybody, we will see you back again next week. Next week is going to be a tough one. I'm not quite sure what we're going to be talking about as far as a topic. I will see what I can put out a little bit later as far as to an announcement for it. For those that know me, know us, know our story, you will know full well why it is a difficult day. But I still have every intention of doing it. So next week's show is going to be on the 7th of September. I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys and hopefully reading your comments. If you do have comments, yes.
I have my son that weekend, so I may not attend because I just may be too exhausted.
And completely understandable. Meantime, of course, if you'd like to send in a voicemail to us, I will see about being able to play those on the air. The phone number for that is area code 959-HCTV-554. Again, 859-4288-554. And if you'd like to email anything over to me, you can send it over to shujintribble@gmail.com. And if you want to follow me on G+, Twitter, Facebook, wherever, under the name Shujin Tribble, just Google for me. It's real tough to miss me. As always, everyone, thank you. Thank you, kiddo. And we will see you again next week. For all of you, of course, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And of course, after all of you, I say my goodnights to my lady too. Because 9 years on, I am still in love. Matane Fujin, I love you and I miss you. Dream of me. Until the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.
Bye.